For the goblet squat, we'll need to begin with the kettlebell out in front of ourselves, and then we want to make sure that our feet are shoulder width apart and our feet pointing in the same direction. Even if you feel like it's more comfortable for you to turn your feet out when you're squatting, then we want to actually make sure that our feet are straight when we do our squats, because then we can work a lot more on our groin and our ankles and the mobility overall in our hips and the stability and connection between our shoulders, spine, hips, knees, and feet. If we turn our feet out when we squat down like this, our groin will lose a lot of tension, and oftentimes you'll also begin to compensate in your knees, so your knees cave in and you roll to the inside of your foot, which will make you lose stability and lose tension in your hip, so you'll actually have a more difficult time pushing heavier weights as well. So begin with our feet shoulder width apart and turn them completely straight. Then we're gonna grab the kettlebell and lift it up in front of our chest. If you feel like the kettlebell is too heavy for your arms to hold in this position, then you can flip it upside down and hold it like a goblet, where the name actually stems from, and let it rest at your chest. Whatever of those two positions you find is the most comfortable for you, use that. I like the position where we have the kettlebell a little bit out in front of our chest, because then it helps us maintain a good posture and actually activate some more core muscles. If you lean the kettlebell into your chest, if you're not strong enough in your core, then you'll easily begin to lean forward, and then you'll lose some stability in your spine when you're doing the goblet squat. So see if you can begin with the kettlebell, hold it like this, and make sure that it's a little bit out in front of yourself. Feet shoulder width apart and toes straight. And then from here, we're gonna squat as low as possible with our back straight and come back up again. To create more tension in your hips, as we spoke about earlier, then what I want you to focus on is when you're squatting down, that you're actually trying to turn your feet out, but your toes stay stable. So when you're going down, you're actually trying to turn out like this, so you feel more activation in your glutes. Keep that tension so your knees don't cave in again. And then really push out to the side as you come back up. So screw your feet into the ground. And give it a good push on the way back up. And then the last thing that I want you to focus on when you're goblet squatting is that when you're squatting down, make sure that your low back stays stable. It's perfectly fine to go ass to the grass when you're squatting, but if your low back is not staying tight and you're actually rounding like this in the bottom position, then you'll lose stability, you'll lose activation in your glutes, and your back is going to begin to take over the motion, and that can end up with you feeling that you have a super sore back. And if the weight is really heavy and you have back problems to begin with, then it can make those problems worse if you're unlucky. So make sure that your back is stable when you're squatting. Only go as deep as your back allows you to. Don't stress about if it feels like it's going to this position in the beginning, because over time you can work with the goblet squat pattern to improve the mobility of your hips, of your ankles when you're doing this motion. So you will become stronger, you will become more mobile. And that is our goblet squat.